Hey guys, Dan here with Battlefield Curator. I'm here with Christine. Christine does tintype photography. It's actually really supposed to be called, what is it called?
Wet plate collodion.
Wet plate collodion. All right, it's a very intricate process. There's a lot of chemistry involved. It looks really cool when it's done. Let's check it out. Wet plate collodion was invented in the 1850s. It was cheaper, it was faster to process, and it was high quality. It became very popular during the Civil War for soldiers to get their picture taken using this type of photography. Now let's check in with Christine and see how this process works.
So I make my own chemistry. I don't, you can buy it pre-mixed. There's guys who do that now. But I think you have more control when you understand how your chemistry works. And so I tried early on to just mix my own. And then I pretty much use the same recipe. There's several recipes from the day. This one's slightly improved. It's called Old Workhorse collodion, and it has a shelf life of about 6 months. So I'm using aluminum trophy plate. It's easy because you can buy it in big sheets and cut it to the size you want it. This is a traditional half plate size, so it will fit in a half plate frame from the 1800s. So what we do is we're going to put the subsurface, and this is collodion, it's going to stick to the metal. So I pour a puddle on the top and spread it out. So I'll do that. Here we go. So I just pour a puddle, it goes to each corner, and it's messy. And then you grab it and start rocking it, because it starts to gel up, and if you don't rock it, it's going to form ridges and lines. So I rock it a little bit. So what I do is once it gels up, it's formed a layer on top, but you don't want it to dry out. So I put it in this vertical tank that has 9% silver nitrate solution dissolved in distilled water. So it's got a dipper. You put on the dipper and immerse it in one swift motion. And the box protects it from light, so you leave it in there for 5 minutes max. And I've got a little egg timer.
Nice.
That's ready, sensitizing, and it's going to form a layer on top of that gel. That's your film.
Okay.
So when it comes out, we're going to put it in the light tight film holder, and it has inserts for different sizes. So when it comes out, I'll wipe the back so it's not sopping wet. Close that up, and I can put it in the back of the camera. So right now we're going to go to the camera and make sure he's in focus. And I don't think you'll need a posing stand. So the posing stand, you would put it at the base of someone's neck to make sure they're not moving around too much.
Okay.
You don't need that because he's sitting. I think he'll be fine.
So you gotta be absolutely still when you take.
Yeah. So I do have a light meter, so I can take a reading of the light, and because it's still, he's in the shade, we're looking at about 15 seconds, 14, 15 seconds. So that whole time I'll be counting out how many seconds, and you won't be able to move. If you blink, you're gonna blink, that's fine. But if a fly lands on you, you don't move. Okay, I like your hat, but I'm gonna put it back a little bit.
Do whatever you need to do.
So I can see your eyebrow. It's got a nice little angle to it. That's good. So I'm gonna do probably from your belt up.
Beautiful.
All right, so whatever I'm pointing at is gonna be on the back of the camera. So let me just put him in where he needs to be. Oh, I can absolutely move closer. I'm walking the camera like some kind of robot. Okay, wait. Because it's such a big plate, I've been doing small ones all weekend. You can get really close with a tight shot like that. I don't want to cut your head off. Dang it. So I have a little level to make sure I'm level. Yep. So I'll make sure he's in focus. You can slide the back of the camera closer to the lens or further away from the lens.
Yeah, okay.
To focus. So I'm going to focus on him, and once I focus on him, you can have a look at it. Okay. So I'll hold it up if you want to. You can get in there and you can see he's upside down.
Oh, okay, I see him, yeah.
Not only is he upside down, but he's mirrored. So the writing on his belt buckle will be like you're looking in a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be backwards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Which in this particular picture is not a big deal because the belt buckle isn't a U.S. buckle.
Yeah.
So this buckle is actually a state of Alabama buckle.
Okay. Awesome.
And I catch a lot of hell for it. And Alabama was not used.
Yeah.
So you stay right there. I'm going to go get the plate. Immediately after I take the exposure, I have to bring it back and develop. So once you develop, you have to rinse off the developer. So I have a couple of bottles of water to rinse the developer off. And then you can bring it out to the light. But not before you rinse it all off, because it's still developing if you don't rinse it.
Okay.
And the developer is another one that I mix myself. I mean, you just put it in a little shot glass of developer, and you put it in your helper tray. Your helper tray has a little lip, a rim around it, so the developer doesn't fall right off the plate. And you just hold it at an angle when you develop, and you pour the developer along the end in a very swift motion so that the developer will pour over the entire plate at the same time, and that way you get an even development. And you know, if you're not careful and you're jittery, you might have like little patches where it's darker because you didn't spread the developer evenly. So unfortunately I can't let you in here with me.
No worries.
But I will be right out with it.
All right. Very intricate process.
Yeah, it is.
It's got to be a tedious one, and definitely a lot of attention to detail.
Well, if you want clean plates, you have to do all these things. Some people like chemical swirls and they think it looks interesting, like especially modern wet plate photographers. They like the chemical artifacts, but back in the day they would have thrown that away. You know, they wanted to do clean plates.
Okay.
So if I'm trying to be accurate, I shouldn't have that kind of stuff. Okay, here we go. So we put the plate holder on the back of the camera. So I know it's bright out here. You're kind of squinting a little bit, so try to relax your eyes. Okay, cool. And I will take the plate holder up, the dark slide I mean, and I'm going to take the lens cap off, and I'm going to start counting, and this is the exposure, all right? So here we go, starting now. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi, 11, 12. I'm just going to do 12 because I think it is too bright. So you just relax, make sure that comes out. I'll bring it out after I develop it.
So if you overdo it for the second counting, it turns out too whitewashed?
Yeah, it'll just be too bright.
Overexposed.
Overexposed.
Oh, okay. So the seconds matter.
Seconds matter. It's more of a guess, and it's from trial and error. If you do it enough, you know, if you mess up enough, you kind of figure out how your chemistry.
Okay.
I have messed up a lot. So.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's experience definitely helps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you really have to admire the guys who used to, like Brady's crew, who'd be out there on the field, you know, and if they do a really good picture in difficult conditions, you know, you have to admire that, because out in the studio it's easy because your temperature doesn't fluctuate. Here the temperature really affects the developer.
Wow.
You know, so if it's a really hot day, I have a cooler and I put the developer in the cooler. They didn't have that. They didn't have ice. So, you know, much respect to those guys.
All right.
I'll be right out with it.
Can't wait to see what it looks like.
Me too.
As long as it don't break when it develops. It'll be all right. You don't hear the developer scream, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a good negative.
All right. So
It's reverse image. So what the final step here that we have to do is put the fixer on it, and then that's where it turns into the positive image that it's supposed to be.
okay. Interesting.
So we got good contrast, good definition between the darks and the lights.
That's good. Yeah.
Once we take the fixer off, then the final step would be to let it dry. You can heat it over a flame if you want, or just air dry it, and then you varnish. So the varnish is a traditional varnish gum sandarach. You dissolve chunks of gum sandarach in alcohol, grain alcohol, and add a little lavender oil, and that's your traditional varnish that they used back then.
Oh,
and
wow.
it seals the surface from air, so air can't affect the silver and darken it. So, you know, any silver surface like a teapot will darken over time, and you have to polish it to keep it shiny. Well, it's the same way with these images. The silver will, if it's exposed to air, will go dark, and so you have to varnish it. So let's go and take it to the fixer. I use the traditional fixer is KCN, which is potassium cyanide.
Okay.
Well, it's very diluted, but you don't want to drink it or get it in an open wound because it can hurt you.
Believe that.
But it gives you a nice sepia tone to the picture. You can use safer materials. You can use sodium thiosulfate, which is a hypo, but that will give you more of a bluish gray look, and it's not as nice. It's not as original looking.
Right.
So when we
Interesting.
pour it on here, you'll see the magic happen very quickly.
Oh wow. Wow, that's awesome.
Right.
And now it's ready to come out.
That is pretty cool.
Put it in the water.
And how long is it gotta stay in the water for?
Well, I'm gonna rinse it a few times just to wash off all that fixer off of the image.
Okay.
And once I rinse it a few times, you're good to go. Yeah, we can see the buckle.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, I was afraid of overexposing it, but it's all right.
I'm gonna say, yeah, your exposure, I think you did good at 12.
I think I did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least we can see more tones and definition of your skin. So when I hold it in the sun, you can absolutely see more detail. You can see his belt buckle. You know, he does look tan because if you're already tan to begin with, this process is sensitive to UV light. And it does change skin tones quite a bit, especially if you have pink or olive tone. I am Greek, so I have olive skin, and I look super dark in wet plate.
When you scan these, there's
You
no
can-
pixels.
Right.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not like a
You
modern
know more
digital
than I thought you
photography.
do.
So
Yeah.
there's no pixels. So
Okay.
when you scan it,
Yep.
or you take an image of it and you zoom in, it's clear.
Yeah.
Because there's no pixel to pixelate.
If you have a sharp image to begin with, like the guys who were making pictures in the Civil War, some of them were good and some of them were not so good. But if the good photographers who got the focus really sharp, and
Oh yeah.
we still have those pictures, and they're about this size or maybe the bigger plates. You can scan them if you have a really good scanner and just blow those things up and see so much detail. Like, you know, what's his name? Gary Edelman with the Civil War Photography, Center for Civil War Photography. He researches all the pictures on the Library of Congress and downloads them, and then he blows them up to see what he can find in them.
The details.
Yeah, and he shows the cropped portions, like, oh, look at this.
Yeah, look at this little
Guy,
spot where
and-
it's,
yeah.
yeah.
It's so cool.
You look at the main image and it's just a little dot. You know, just the little thing.
Yeah.
But then
But
he
you can blow
zooms
it.
in and it's, you know, a boy and a dog. And it's
Yeah.
like, how?
Yeah. Well,
The camera.
That camera does
he put
good.
one
Yeah.
up the other day, and he's like, "Well, what can you see in this image?" And there's a lot going on. And I zoomed in. I was looking around, and I saw a cannonball had hit the building behind what he was photographed. In the corner, you could see one building, and you could zoom in on the brick and see that a cannonball had hit that brick building because there was a round thing damaged to.
But looking at the main picture,
You wouldn't notice it. You
yeah.
wouldn't have noticed it.
Wow.
So I'm going to put this on the rack. So it's already starting to dry. You can see the
Okay.
edges.
Yeah.
The water's starting to evaporate. So it'll lighten as it dries, and then when you pour the varnish over it, it'll come back to its original
Tone?
tones. Yeah. My name is Christine Eady, but my photography business is the Charleston, like the city Charleston Tintypist. And I'm on Facebook. I've got a website, charlestontintypist.com. I'm also on Instagram. It's Charleston_Tintypist. And the events I go to are listed on my website. I've got a schedule of events. And the
Okay.
next event I'm going to is Fort Clinch in Florida.
All right.
It's Amelia Island. And then I've got a couple more events in November. And then my big event next year is a Lusty. And I'm usually sold out before I get there. So if you want to get a picture there, find my website and you can book in advance.
Well, that's it for the video. Be sure to pulverize that like button and subscribe if you haven't. And as always, be sure to learn history and curate history.